Hi, this is your virtual assistant, Dawn, with the research departments and our product, Second Brain. This lesson is going to be about deed fraud, otherwise known as title fraud. The people who are more susceptible to this type of fraud are people who outright own their house. In other words, there are no mortgages or liens on their house. And upon research, I realized that's because in order to change the deed in the state of Maryland, for example, there are not that many requirements. But a major hurdle I could see a scammer having to overcome is the verification that there is no liens on the property. It seems as though notaries are a reason why these deeds are slipping through the cracks. Sometimes it comes from notaries who are knowingly getting into fraudulent activity. Like, for example, this one that happened in the state of Pennsylvania, where they caught a notary involved in the fraud that had to do with deed theft or title theft. And sometimes it's unknowingly because, as you know, I myself am a notary public. So our information is public a lot of times, depending on which state that you're located in. So it's fairly easy just to get the person's information, go online, order a notary stamp, put it on a paperwork, submit it, and there's very little oversight. There was an article that I found in the Washington Post, and I'm going to put it on the screen for you to pause and read at your leisure. And I'll probably put a link below this. But I'm going to summarize what I read in this article. So this lady inherited a piece of property from her father, and he thought before his passing that simply putting in an email that he wanted his daughter to have the property was enough in regards to, I guess, going through the probate process after somebody passes. It was not enough, but by the time she went and got, the rights on her property, come to find out somebody else, like I believe a few weeks before her father passed, had submitted a fraudulent deed claim and now was the owner of this property. I believe it was a condo. So long story short, she went through all the channels, all the headaches. The circuit court, I believe that's the clerk of the circuit court that is the one that records deeds, basically told her it's not their responsibility to figure out if the document is fraudulent. Her only job is to record it. So upon her speaking to different people, they told her she needed to go see a real estate attorney. She was like, bump that. I believe she said she's an entrepreneur, if I'm not mistaken, which makes sense because I probably would say bump that too. She ended up filing a court paperwork herself. But she ended up finding out that she could locate the notary who notarized the document. And then when she did, come to find out that notary that was not that notary's signature, and it was completely fraudulent. So she thought this was enough proof. It was not enough proof. When she got to court, the judge said, I'm sorry, you're going to have to serve this guy who's on this deed, which of course she couldn't locate this guy. It's a fraudulent deed. And I understand why the judge said that, because he said in the article that the judge basically said, if there is not proper service, this man could come back and, basically get the court case thrown out for improper service. It goes in a certain way how the court system works. So I understand why he said that. But he did give her advice and said, do service through like public notification, like putting it like every 4 weeks in the newspaper. And she did. And after that, she ended up finally getting her father's property back and then, selling it thereafter.
Hello, this is your AI assistant here with a quick commercial about our virtual assistant light paid plan. One of the features in the plan is the deed fraud checks. We'll check your Maryland SDAT page on your behalf twice monthly. This way, should anything fraudulent happen, you'll be ahead of the ball.
On a personal note, when I first started hearing about all these deed fraud cases across the country and realizing it was affecting elderly people, it was a couple in California I remember reading, and they were elderly, and the man got put out of his house, and it was like nothing that he could do. And I think he ended up going to jail for like going off saying he's not leaving the house because it's his house. He's been in there probably 40, 50 years, right? And I was worried because I'm thinking about our house, and I called I forgot who I called in the state. It might have been a clerk of the circuit court. I can't remember. But I remember saying, is there any like preventative measures that y'all have in place to protect, the citizens of the state of Maryland as it, relates to deed fraud? And the person said, no, it's nothing that we could do. I believe I emailed them. And they was like, it's nothing we could do about that. But what you can do is go on SDAT. So if anybody hasn't been on SDAT, I'll pull it up on the screen. SDAT is a website where you could put any property that's anywhere in the state of Maryland. It's going to show you who owns the property, what was recorded on the deed, how much the property was transferred for, and all that. So the most I could tell you, and no, this is not legal advice. This is just my humble opinion. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, able to give legal advice, but check the deed. Check it. Like, put an alarm. I got like a calendar reminder once a month saying, check the deed. Just check it so that at least you'll be able to be ahead of the ball should it end up in court. You're not caught off guard. Because I think if it goes too far, like how I did with the couple I said that was in California, is multiple articles I've read about this. If it goes too far, you could literally get put out of your house. You know what I mean?